What is up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the mighty Barra, or KingBarra, the Barra HQ wagon that we are building. I know it's been a little while between episodes. I do apologise. There has been a number of things working against us as far as getting this thing done. We've been facing quite a bit of adversity, but one thing that we have finally got onto at the moment is that we do finally have someone that is going to do all of the coating for us. So we talked about our colour scheme in previous episodes, so we want to get all this coated. Between powder coating and ceramic coating of the hot side, it was really hard to find someone to actually do the coating, but we have found someone, which means there is a few little final touches that we have to put on quite a bit of this equipment before it can go to coating. So there's probably quite a bit that I need to go through that's sort of happened since the last you watched of it being back from fabrication and back from wiring. So we ended up faced in another situation very similar to the one we were in when it first went to fabrication with the intake manifold. And it ended up down at wiring with the throttle body that was ordered with the intake manifold on it, and we still could not get an answer as to what TPS was intended to go on that throttle body. To save another situation where delaying the job again with someone else that was doing work once again, we just bit the bullet and got this throttle body, which has worked out great. So this is just a ProFlow one. It's very similar to the one that was on the manifold, except for this one just has a simple 8mm half moon shaft TPS, which fits just a GM LS TPS sensor. So
it's far more universal.
Yeah, just like a very universal TPS setup, which is going to suit us down to the ground. Super easy to get sensors, you know. So that's what ended up happening, and that's going to go into the manifold. And then after wiring, it went to Ryan to get fabrication finished. Now that's done. But because so much at that time was still unknown, and you know, at that point we hadn't even seen this throttle body, we sort of took a little bit of a gamble on it, but so much was unknown about how we were going to set up the IAC and heaps of other things. So we didn't have Ryan complete all of the ports that were needed on the intake, but now that we've come to a conclusion of exactly what we're going to do, Rex is going to have to add to Ryan's work here, and we just need to put in a port, one for a IAT sensor and one for a port which is going to run to our IACV. Which then goes back into the manifold. So
I'm going to put the IAT in that one, and then put the -6 for the IAC just off the bottom, so when it sits on the car like that.
Lovely.
So yeah, it'll be underneath, out of the way.
Perfect.
And no one's going to see my horrible welding.
Oh, come on, give yourself some credit, mate.
Nah, it's going to be so much worse.
Oh,
it's not bad.
We can't all be Ryan.
It's not bad, but then it's going to be like that, and then there'll just be these two dickheads, and they're like, ugh.
Give yourself some more credit, mate. So as well as that, the bottom radiator hose that Ryan fabbed up for us, we're going to put a port or a fitting on that as well, which is just going to be directly the turbo water return. So, you know, the turbo sits up this side, water comes out of the turbo straight into the top rad hose into here somewhere, which will dummy that back up on the car as well and get that sorted. So, yeah, a few things like that we need to get sorted so that we can get the stuff to coating, because it's going to be a few weeks at coating. And in the meantime, we've been continuing to develop some of the one-off parts that we've been working on. You saw at the end of the last episode that our latest revision for the shifted gate, the gate actually works, but we've still been sort of working towards getting the pin and everything else sorted to suit that new revision, which has been a bit of a task. And we are still developing our idler, which today I need to get the power steering box in this thing, because that's something only occurred to me the other day, was that we need to get the power steering box in it to make sure that our idler is going to fit with what we need. But anyway, all moving along. We've also got our, I don't know if I showed it in the last episode, but we've got our tail shaft back. Well, I shouldn't say back, we have our tail shaft. So that's it there, the big dog up there in the safety. I did a test fit on that before the car came down. So it fits awesome, so that's good to go for when it goes back together for its final fitment. But yes, happy day. So if we just have an AN6 somewhere like there, we're going to make this one out of hardline, which comes from the thermostat housing which Ryan has modified for us. So yeah, happiest of days. Anyway, we'll get on to adding these ports, and then I'm going to have to sit down and make up a huge big list of all of the fittings and lines and hose that we're going to need. And then obviously we're going to get the nose cone back off so that we can get the intercooler off, so we can get it to go get powder coated as well. yeah, anyway, looking forward to this thing. Stoked to be back working on it again and have some time to actually get back into it. Hopefully have this hoist that it's on sorted out fairly soon. Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
but,
just basically right before that corner.
Yeah.
Should be fine.
Hell yeah. We've got a new wiper motor to go in this thing as well, which actually hides the wiper motor behind the firewall, behind the cowl, which will then be pretty much the last thing we actually need to delete off the firewall. So then when this motor comes out after we finish developing our one-off parts, then we can paint the firewall and get that all smick and then start putting it all back together. So the other thing we have to go on with at the moment as well is there are a few things that we actually have to wire into the car. Completely our fault. We've sort of talked about in the emails initially with Whitey, but when I actually made them a video of sort of everything we were thinking about doing with the wiring side of the car, so that they just had a video to reference for everything, which it worked really well. And in that video, I forgot a few things, so that's my fault, but that's fine. The wiring that we've got to add actually has nothing to do with their main harness, their main loom. The wiring that we need to add is all going to be hidden underneath the guard all up to the front here. So we need to put a flex fuel sensor up here where the surge tank is going to go, which we actually have to still build as well. So that wiring will just be hidden from the ECU up this side on the inner guard and won't actually have to interfere with their loom as well. But yeah, anyway, I think that's it. It's a lot of talking. Let's get it. So you can see here with our intake manifold, our fuel rail did finally arrive, and it looks freaking awesome on this intake. It all came together really, really well. It didn't come with any hardware, but I had these leftover spaces from an old Raceworks rail, which are going to fit perfectly fine. To save bothering them about it. And we've got some Sonic 1000cc injectors to go in this rail. So basically what we decided is 600 was sort of a bit of the goal. For no reason. The owner doesn't particularly want 600. We just sort of figured that gassy BA turbo 400 9-inch 600 wheel is probably a fairly good number to aim for, just as far as just a number to shoot for. Now 1000cc injectors are going to be very marginal as to whether they're actually going to get us there or not. So you know, they might get us there. But the fact is the difference between the 1000s and the next size up, which is the 1650s, was not worth the extra money for that extra couple of horsepower, which we might gain from having the bigger injectors sort of thing. So we're pretty happy just to run the 1000s, and we'll just pull it up at a reasonable duty cycle, and that's how much power it'll make at that point, which I'm sure it'll be more than fine for this thing. And it definitely, obviously, won't be driven at that sort of power all the time, just for power cruise events and that sort of thing. But anyway, that's the plan with this. So yeah, those injectors fit with these spaces, and it'll went together really well and looks great. So stoked with that. As we said from the very beginning, it really does seem a shame to cover up so much of Ryan's fab work with coating. It really does. It's so nice, but it really is the theme of the car, is blacked out. So it is what it is. It's still going to look awesome, but yeah, it is. It is a bit of a shame to cover up so much of his work. So the 6 booster will get re-ceramic coated, the turbine housing will get ceramic coated, the compressor housing, and then obviously all of our intake charge piping, intake pipe, the rad hoses and stuff, the rad pipes, they will get powder coated in black, and obviously the combination overflow box and everything, that'll get powder coated black. And yeah, that'll pretty much be the goal as far as the coating. And then obviously when we build the engine, that'll all get painted black. That'll all get blacked out, except obviously we've talked about the cover being the same color as the car. It's the same color as the firewall, so yeah, there'll be a few little raw things here and there. The radiator's gonna stay raw. There's gonna be a few bits and bobs to try and tie it all together, but for the most part, it's gonna be black and beige, which is basically the theme of the car. So the other thing is actually when it went to Whitey's to get wired up, I completely spaced on the fact that you actually need an igniter box to run these coils. So that, again, my own fault, but I ordered an igniter box when it got there, but it didn't get there in time for the wiring. It was delayed. It ended up being delayed a few weeks, but we've got it here, so I've got to get that igniter box in this thing as well to make sure the coils are going to run on the 2500, but yeah, just more and more things. But first things first, we've got a universal sandwich plate adapter for the oil filter area, because we talked about it. We actually quite like where the oil filter ended up in this engine bay. It's going to be quite easy to work with, and it's pretty nice, low, out of the way. So we sort of didn't want to completely move the filter with the completely remote setup, but obviously we need a sandwich plate to be able to run our lines to our cooler down there. So it was pretty hard. Well, it wasn't really hard, I just had to hunt around a bit and find one that was going to be the right dimensions to actually use, and we've got it here. So I might rip that filter off, test fit that, and my assumption is that we'll probably have to run the later Falcon, the shorter filter on the end of that sandwich plate to make it work, but need it in there so that we can add to our list of big long list of fittings that we're going to have to try and find and get and buy. Going to be buying a whole mess of fittings and hose. So I literally physically can't get that filter off. It is really stuck on there. But that's just a BAZ9 filter. But anyway, I tried one of our other blocks that we have in the engine room, and I found the fitting that's going to work, which is M22, which is just the standard thread for whatever the BF block in there is, which actually means that we can run, I don't know if it's the early or the late LS. One of those is an M22. I just can't remember which one it is. I think it might be a late one, like a Gen 4 LS, which is perfect. They're like a little, obviously not half size, but obviously a lot smaller than a Z9. So, but like with this block and that other type of filter, the filter won't be any further down than that filter sits now. And this is perfect. We've got 2-8 orb outs, which I can just face up, which means that those fittings can just have 90 straight off them and go down, obviously, to our cooler down there, and obviously on a nice little route, and have all the P-clamps and everything else, make them nice. But yeah, perfect, it's gonna work great, so awesome. So as far as our actual IAC solution, I don't know if I explained it in a previous video or not. When I bought all the Haltech stuff, I realized that Haltech actually do this as an IAC. Because basically we were hoping that we could get a throttle body that has the IAC in the throttle body like an LS does, but there's a few reasons that that just wouldn't work on this setup in this situation. So I was stoked to find that Haltech actually do just a GM IAC in a housing that Haltech make, which means you can actually just run the GM IACV in line, which is awesome. But as you can see, the Haltech one is just made with barbs, which is all well and good, except obviously the theme of this car, as you've probably been able to tell, is we're trying to do everything with braid or hardline. I'm trying to make sure there's no like push lock or anything else like that on the car. It is just sort of that level is sort of where this car's got to be at. So what I've actually found since then is Raceworks, who we actually now are a supplier for as well. Yeah, supplier? Yeah, I guess that's the right word. But anyway, Raceworks make the same thing, but the actual frame that they use to house their IAC, I'll show you in a second. And I actually also learned that ProFlow make one that's very similar to the Raceworks one as well. But you can see how they're actually threaded. They're not just barbs, which means that you can actually run obviously adapter fittings and then run that with braided PDFE instead of just having a barb and some push lock or just some heater hose or whatever the hell you're gonna have. Anyway, basically we can use this frame, the Raceworks one, to make all of the IAC lines also out of braided stainless, which is awesome. So the Haltech one I'll put aside. I have a drift car that will be coming in fairly soon that I'm sponsoring, which I want to do GM IAC on that. So I will use this one for that because I don't particularly mind for the drift car if it's just barbed and clamped, but just for the level of this car, it's going to be freaking wicked to have this thing and have all of the IAC set up with braid. So that's why we had to wait till now until figure out putting the port in the intake pipe and all that sort of thing. So that's what Rex is doing now. But that's what we're planning on doing for the IAC. So the reason I'm so stoked about using the GM IAC is because they're a 4-wire. They drive both ways, which makes them pretty fast. So they actually react really fast and they're really good to control IAC with. Who'd have thought? But like your general 2-wire ones, they generally only drive one way and basically just release the other way, which can sometimes make them a little bit slower to react. So yeah, have always liked the GM IAC setup and pretty stoked to have options to run them in line like that, which I didn't particularly know about beforehand. So look at that, always learning, always finding new stuff. So this is, I guess, our first, or the first sort of prototype sketch that I have of this this idler setup. I haven't actually got obviously the power steering box in there yet, but just looking at the power steering box compared to the other steering box that's in there, I figure if we keep it nice and high and close to the engine block, it keeps it out of the way of all the power steering stuff that's going to be on this side as much as possible. But not only that, the closer we keep it in, the more we get on the belt over the water pump, which is going to help with that as well. So Hopefully this sort of works. Hopefully it's only one hit. Hopefully one prototype and it's done. That's what we always strive for. But that will just take the same idler that is used at the top of the cover there. So these same idlers that go on that, so it'll just be the exact same part, except it will go down here, just off around here, this area, which the belt will come over here, down around that, up over there, and then back over our tensioner, and just keep that stock belt route, which is going to be really, really handy. So anyway, we'll get that first prototype 3D printed, and then we'll get it fitted up with the power steering box and have a look from there where we're going from there. But I think it should be okay. Righto guys, I've had a freaking huge day driving all around the countryside, but we've got our prototype piece. Huge thank you to Sam from Whitey's Wiring for printing this up with his 3D printer for us. There's a few issues which I found just putting the pulley on already, but I need to double check the measurements of this thing, make sure it's not just a printing error, make sure it is actually, basically I need to confirm this piece with what I've actually sketched up or 3D drawn to make sure that they match and it's not just a printing error. But as you can see, that's with our idler on it, looking awesome. And you come up in here, up into that, and it just, a bit hard to do with one end, but it just goes in there like so. You get one bolt in there, I don't have the other bolt at the top, but anyway,
yeah,
we'll find some bolts.
You got to take the pulley off to get the top bolt in. So
yeah,
but it's lined up.
Either way, you can see what's going on there. That's how that goes. So your belt comes down off the alternator, over the idler, up over the water pump. You get all of that surface area on the belt across to the tensioner and back around the crank pulley. So that allows you to keep the standard belt route, but you've got all this room here for the power steering box and everything. So yeah, don't have to modify anything else. We can keep our high man alt. Everything will be the same. Yeah, super simple.
How handy is it having access to 3D printers and stuff?
Yeah, it's a game changer.
It really is.
So anyway, that is pretty much the piece. But yeah, I'll just confirm a few things. Once we get this HQ down again, we'll do some more testing with the alignment, make sure it doesn't have to be moved back or forwards. I don't mind if it's got to be moved forwards because you can always just shim it with washers. But obviously if it needs to move back, that has to be a design change. Once again, obviously, once we confirm that the piece matches what we've drawn. But anyway, that's it. But obviously, as we're still shit fighting with this hoist, we're trying to very much limit how often this has to come up and down. So I'm not going to put it down just to do that. We'll just keep it in mind for next time. It does have to come down to do more work to check it. But yeah, currently we are trying our best to very much limit how much this hoist is used until we get to the bottom of what the hell's going on. But anyway, that's awesome. It's another thing sorted. So basically between that, still to finish off the shifter gate, but it's looking pretty good. We've got a few things ready to just send to CNC to actually get CNC machined into billet. And about the last thing we need to really sort out that's custom one-off is how we're going to mount the IC7 and the dash mount. But even then, that piece is probably going to end up just being actual 3D printed. I don't think we'll end up getting that one done out of steel. It'll probably just stay plastic. But I don't know if you guys remember seeing the actual printed pieces of the shifter gate, but Sam has adjusted his printer a bit and he's got it. This piece, the quality of the printing is way better than the last one.
It is, yeah.
It's yeah, he's stoked with how well he's got his printer going, and it's looking awesome. It's really nice. Really good. So yeah, stomped. How good.
That's going to work really nice. I like it.
Righto guys, that is a wrap on this episode of the HQ. Sorry that this episode just ended up being me talking pretty much for 20 minutes. I do apologise. I actually even found it hard to edit, so if you made it this far watching it, thank you. And sorry. But yeah, it really was sort of just bits together of what we've been able to get to in between everything else that's been going on in the past sort of 2 months, which has just been crazy. But anyway, now that the dyno's back in action, we've been able to get through a few of these cars. We're starting to get over our COVID and things are starting to go back to a bit of a normality. I've just got the call. All of our stuff is ready to be picked up from the coders, so that's ready to go. So as much as the past 2 months has sort of just been dipping and dabbling and getting a few things sorted, we're sort of approaching a time where over the next few weeks. We're just going to be diving headfirst back into this thing until it's finished. So that's what we're getting to, which is awesome. It's been a long time coming. Do apologise to the owner for how long it's been sitting on this hoist. That's the other news, is we hopefully will have this hoist sorted out in the next sort of 3-4 weeks as well. So yeah, hopefully over the next sort of month we can just head first into this thing and keep getting it sorted now at a much quicker pace, now that we've got a few other of these things right out of the way. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you're looking forward to the next episode. We are really looking forward to getting cracking on this thing again and getting it back together properly. It's got to be a freaking wicked cruiser. So thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.